Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry, episode 246. I'm your host, Jerrad Wyche. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Dominic Orlando.
So I think starting this year, instead of E3 season, we can call it Keighley season. Maybe?
Or I like Key 3. Key 3 is pretty
Key
good.
3.
A lot of people have been
Ooh.
calling it Key 3. Yeah, I'm not going to
I like
claim that
that.
wasn't my idea.
You spell
the boys,
key like K-E-I-G-H or something?
yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe even just like a symbol of a key and then the number 3. But the boys over at Easy Allies were using that, and that's where I kind of picked that up. So shout out to Easy Allies for, I don't know if they coined that, but one thing I wanted to say, we are a gaming podcast, but I know you love hockey, Dom. It's crazy that hockey is not as popular as any of the other major sports in the United States, because I didn't know that the NHL playoffs are happening until today, and apparently they're almost over too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It usually lines up with basketball as far as timing, but yeah, they're in the conference conference finals right now for hockey, and yeah, I've been getting into it too much in the past couple of years because Detroit has been terrible.
Okay. You're my only line to the world of hockey, so I figured I'd mention that. It is a bummer that they're happening because obviously you don't want to have anything taking place around the NFL playoffs, because obviously NFL is king in the United States, and then basketball is number 2, and then I haven't looked into honestly I'm assuming baseball would be ahead of hockey.
I think
And then it comes down to like soccer and hockey. Obviously, soccer around the world is the most popular, but here in the States, I don't know. That might be closer than one might assume, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
And if it depends, I guess, I would assume like the American Soccer League is less popular than hockey, but maybe
I think
those
the
English
European
leagues or
Soccer
whatever.
League might be more popular in the United States than baseball or hockey.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going. Is maybe when you talk about more global soccer, European is different. But
I mean, even recently, F1 as well has come on huge in the United States. People are, I guess
what
it's
is the
based
deal?
because there was like a Netflix show that came out or something. I don't know. I'm not a car guy. Anyways, let's get back to video games. We got a pretty packed show, so let's start it off. First up, I have one quickie story that I wanted to mention, and then we're going to talk about the state of play that happened the day we're recording this, which is June 2nd. And then we're going to go into our summer predictions. So first up, something I thought was really cool is they recently revealed the Madden 23 cover athlete. A lot of people are speculating, is it going to be Aaron Donald? Is it going to be Cooper Kupp? Is it going to be a mix of Los Angeles Rams players? Would it be Joe Burrow? And one thing I honestly forgot is, unfortunately, late last year we had the passing of John Madden, who obviously the game is named after, was very historic in the world of the NFL. Influenced not only the game of football, but the announcer's desk. Like, he changed a lot of the color commentary for the game of football. So he's going to be the cover athlete, which I think is really cool. And not only for like the ultra expensive special edition of the game, he's on all of the covers, just different photos of him, which I think is really cool.
they're not doing the Kobe thing where you only get his cover if you buy the $80, $100 version or whatever.
Exactly. And honestly, I don't know if you have any John Madden memories, but the one that sticks out to me is on Thanksgiving when he absolutely demolishes that turkey on live television with like one hand. He just like crumbles it to pieces. It's like somebody were to go up to John Madden and be like, "Hey, can you what is it called? When you cut up pork? What is it called? Pulled pork. Like, you know when you pull pork? Somebody's like, "Oh, make us pulled turkey," because he just goes up to that thing and he destroys it with his own hand. Obviously, a lot of his catchphrases are classic, the boom and all of that. His tough acting to Nactin commercial.
That's what I think of, is that foot cream or whatever it is.
Yeah, tough acting to Nactin. Boom. Yeah, so shout out to John Madden, a legend. One thing that also doesn't get talked about with him is he was a huge advocate for concussion prevention, Dom, in like the 80s. Because obviously there's a lot of things attached with the game of football where people kind of go hush hush on that stuff. But he was a huge advocate for making sure players didn't play if they were in concussion protocol and all that stuff. So he's been on the good side of history. Honestly, a lot closer to like Mr. Rogers in terms of, I don't know with his legacy if it'll ever turn sour as the years go on posthumously. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's any skeletons in the closet, but it's cool to see him on the cover. He's just a good dude and did a lot for the game of football. Next up, let's talk about the state of play, Dom. Honestly, going in, we heard PSVR stuff, third-party announcements, 30 minutes. Set your expectations accordingly. And now, I'm not going to say that this state of play was like a PlayStation Showcase, but it was actually pretty good. And we're gonna go through it, and there's a lot of awesome stuff that was announced, stuff that I maybe expected to see at the Summer Game Fest, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and maybe not at this State of Play. It opened with Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's coming out March 24th, 2023, already planting that flag. The cool thing with Capcom is they don't really tend to delay their games that often, especially their recent run of Resident Evil games. They kind of have that date set in the future, and they hit it almost always. Obviously, this game's in the RE engine, looked great. They also announced that there's some PSVR 2 stuff in development for the game. The thing I was talking to you about this when you were catching up on the trailers is it started, and I thought this was a Last of Us remake. It's so much played like that with the R and the forest behind it and the guitar. I thought it looked awesome. I never played the original Resident Evil 4. I don't know where you sit on that, but this is having me very tempted to hop in for the first time, much like the other Resident Evil remakes we've seen in the last couple years.
I'm mad excited for this. 4 was one of the first couple games like I ever played back in like second or third grade, I want to say. Back in the GameCube era, and then even playing it again on Wii with the the motion controls, where it actually worked pretty well. Because it is, on GameCube it was, I don't think it's quite the tank controls, but it was like you have to stop and then shoot. Those are like two separate things. You can't be moving while shooting or aiming or whatever. So on Wii, it actually kind of worked pretty well, having to aim with the Wiimote. But yeah, I love the hell out of this game, and frankly, it's a lot of people's like top game, like just in general, like favorite game of all time. I feel like a lot of people say Resident Evil 4, just the way it kind of is in a, at first, a horror game, but also an adventure game, because you're kind of going through all these different places and getting all sorts of different items and guns and equipment or whatever. But then also an action game too. So I don't know, it kind of does a lot, and I'm super excited to see this, see it nice and polished up, remade.
For me, Resident Evil 4 has always sounded like it's the Mass Effect 2 of the Resident Evil franchise, and that it's the best blend of the specific genre that series goes for, plus the general action genre, right? So obviously, Mass Effect 2 does that for the Mass Effect trilogy, and the way everyone talks about this, like you said, it's the best blend of both horror and action, and most people consider it the best in the series. Like you said, most people, it's in their top favorite video games of all time. I'm very interested in it, and I can't wait to see it next year in March. Next up, speaking of Resident Evil, RE8 was announced to be coming to PSVR 2. Cool. Unclear if it was a full game or like a experience, but I'm pretty sure RE7 was fully playable in VR, right? So RE8's probably going to be the same way.
I would imagine it's the same, because 7, and I never played it, but apparently, it was the entire game was in PSVR. And it was the same like save. It wasn't like a separate mode or anything. It was just kind of like using a separate controller or something, where you could just hop in and out of it, which I want to try. I still want to try, and I'm hoping that PSVR 2, has enough like titles and enough going for it that it makes it worth the cost of what's probably going to be like, I assume, like at least $400, like the first one was, right, just for the unit itself. And I'm a pretty frugal person, so I want to make sure that there's, plenty of actual VR specific and cool stuff for PSVR 2 before jumping in. So this is a good start, of a first announcement, but it's still like kind of expected, to be honest. So I'm curious to hear more what else they have planned for PSVR 2.
And that's a struggle with VR in general, is because I would say you're not the general consumer, right? You're more into the gaming sphere, and you're still needing to be sold on it a little bit more. So from the general consumer standpoint, it's like it's a total uphill climb. So we'll see what happens.
Especially when, like, compared to something like Game Pass, where if you buy an Xbox, there's so much content that enables you to access specifically, right? But if you buy PSVR 2, or PSVR, it's like there's not that much. So it's kind of like makes it hard to feel it's a worthwhile investment.
Well, also at half the price, right? Because what can you get a Series S for now? Like $250, $200?
Yeah, they've been dropping on sale now and again lately too.
And they're selling like hotcakes. So it's like, you can get in for half the cost and have way more content there. Next up, we had a new game announcement, or at least a sequel. So Walking Dead: Sinners and Saints Chapter 2 is coming in 2022. It was unveiled as a PSVR 2 game. This is weird because it's announced for this year, but PSVR 2 didn't get a date. So I wonder if this is coming to other VR platforms this year, and then it's also coming to PSVR 2, you know? Very weird the way that was announced.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, No Man's Sky coming to PSVR 2. It's good to see Sony and Hello Games working together again after all that happened. Seems like that's going to be the full game thing too. It's not going to be an experience. Seems like it's just going to be all playable, which is super cool. I need to get back to No Man's Sky. It's a game that's always there on my hard drive that I want to dive into deeper. I gave it a good hour about a year ago, and I like a lot of the systems, and obviously it's updated all the time with these big expansions, and it's like a Jerrad ass game. So I just need to commit to it when I have some time. Um, you know. Next up, another PSVR 2 announcement: Horizon Call of the Mountain. This was one of the titles that was kind of like rumored and leaked before this state of play of Horizon PSVR 2 game. Looks cool if you're into that world. The thing that's more interesting to me is this came packed with on the back end of it. They announced a major update for Horizon Forbidden West that launched today, and it's going to allow players to do New Game Plus. It's going to let you reset your skill trees, and there's going to be a bunch of new weapons and stuff. So it seems like a pretty substantial update to the game. Obviously, if you've played it, you probably have more ideas of the minutia of the overall update. But it was cool to see those two packed together. I think it's smart too because you want people to jump into Horizon Forbidden West, get excited for it, so they feel as if this VR title is a must play, right? It's another one of those reasons to get the PSVR 2 is like, okay, if you see it and it's like, oh, the launch lineup isn't great, but I need to play that. You just need enough of these like rings in the ladder to get people to climb up to the point where they're willing to take the leap, and get the actual product. So.
Yeah, and that's a good. This is another good one with Resident Evil, but then the thing is too. Ultimately, like I already played Resident Evil 8, so I'm not thrilled to like replay it just in VR. But anyway, yeah, this is Horizon is a good notch again for me of stuff I'd be looking for. The biggest rung on that ladder, TBD, of course, Half-Life Alyx. To me, that has to be there. Like zero excuse, it has to be there at some point if they want this thing to be successful. But
what's the little property for PlayStation with a little white robot guy? What is it called?
Astrobot.
Yeah, I'm assuming it'll launch with a new Astrobot game too, right? They have a whole studio dedicated to making those games, so that's a given. And then remember for RE4 remake, they ended with that there's PSVR 2 content in the works too. So adding on to that as well. So not just RE8, but RE4 as well. Next up, we had the announcement that Marvel's Spider-Man is coming to PC on August 22nd, 2022. People have been wondering, Sony talked about in their financial earnings of they're expecting a big boost to their PC sales. It's like, oh, what is that going to be? What exclusive is coming to PC? Marvel's Spider-Man, of course they're going to see a sales boost. That game's going to sell like hotcakes. And honestly, this is something we should have seen a long time ago, not just the Spider-Man thing, but PlayStation's games coming to PC because Sean Layden, RIP to his PlayStation career. He's still alive, doing well.
Yeah.
Still don't know what happened there. But remember, he talked about how the AAA game development was unsustainable, and you see the clear amount of budget that PlayStation puts into its first-party games, and there had to be a cracking point where they had to move them to PC to get additional sales to recoup costs as well. It just AAA game development is so expensive that it was inevitable.
Well, and it extends their life too. Like the way they're doing it. These are like delayed releases on PC by like a year or more. So like it, reinvigorates, get some new sales later on after the game already came out. And then also obviously get that game back in the conversation and that kind of stuff. Because especially Sony games, pretty much all single player, right? You can play through it, even the big ones, even Horizon. Maybe play through it for 40 hours or so, and you're moving on to the next thing. So also, this is pretty smart from them.
All the people having a tough time getting the PS5, it lets you sell to those people as well who maybe have a PC but can't get a PS5 yet. Next up, Stray finally got a release date. This is that cute little cat adventure platforming game. It's coming out July 19th, 2022. This was always also rumored before the show. Looks cool. The big thing for my interest on this, Dom, is A, the reviews. Obviously, it's a game that hinges for me on reviews. And 2, the price point. Because if this, I don't think it'll launch at $60. I think it'd be a little ridiculous. But even $40, I don't know. It's it's tough for me. Obviously, it's tough to value games based on that and put a dollar amount to it. But it's one of those games where like if this is $30 and it reviews well, I'm in. If it's $60 and it reviews well, I'm probably out. If it's a 7 and it's $30, I'm probably in. Like I don't know how all that shakes out is a little weird, but I am interested in it. I thought it looked good. Have you been looking forward to this game or no?
Yeah, so this is normally like you have to keep me caught up on some of the indie games that are hyped about, right? But this was one that I've watched all the gameplay demos that they've put out so far. I'm really excited for it. I think it looks really cool and original. But I'm ultimately with you. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a $60 game to me. Maybe the scope is just so much bigger than like what it's felt like so far based on what they've shown. But to me, this feels like it's going to be $30. So if it's more than that, and the scope feels like what I think it feels like, if that ends up being how it is, then that's going to be a harder one to swallow. It might be like wait for a sale kind of a thing.
Hey, if it
And
comes
then
out
of
at
course the reviews.
Hey, if it comes out at 60 and you don't want to buy it, there was also announced that if you're a premium or deluxe member for the new PlayStation Plus,
Right.
you're getting it for free. So that's obviously starting their track of giving people free games. I wonder how that's going to play into the whole PS Plus of getting free games as well, because I think PlayStation is running into the same problem, kind of. Obviously, this new PlayStation Plus games with God of War and stuff is great, but we're getting to the point where like they've already kind of given away all of the PS4 games, most of them anyways, just like Xbox has with the
Yeah.
Xbox One games. So how are you going to do that? And with Game Pass, it's putting new games into Game Pass. And for PlayStation, it might be releasing these indie titles into it for free as well. So we'll see what happens there. One thing I want to say, because Stray had me reminded me of this when he said high profile indie, there was no Little Devil inside of this, and that's supposed to be launching this year. That's a little worrisome. To me, that probably says that that game's going to get delayed out of this year as well. Because this seems like the prime spot where if they're showing Stray here and it has a release date for this year, you would assume Little Devil inside. Who knows? We might get another State of Play like in July that has it, but it's just a little worrisome there. Um, Next up, one of the stars of this State of Play, in my opinion, is Callisto Protocol. This is obviously
Mhm.
from the former Dead Space devs, led by Glenn Schofield, starring Josh Duhamel. It looks like classic Dark Souls. It has the same type of vibes and combat. Seems like you're going to be severing limbs left and right. It's not specifically like a one-for-one clone of Dead Space. It does feel a little bit more original. It feels closer to like Alien, in terms of like there's a lot of like combat suits and stuff. It's not just the creature horror. Whereas with Dead Space, it was much more focused on those aliens. But it looks dope. It's coming out December 2nd, 2022, which I think is great. I could see it totally getting delayed, and I wouldn't be surprised. But if it does hit this year, that'd be awesome. And the other thing I want to say is before this came out, Glenn Schofield kind of confirmed that this is no longer attached to the PUBG universe. Not that I think that was a huge deal. I think that was just kind of like for marketing purposes. But as the game garnered its own interest from people on its own, they didn't feel like they needed to attach it to PUBG. I think that was just at the offset. Publishers were worried, like, how do we get people interested? PUBG's hot right now. And obviously, as how PUBG has gone by the wayside in the general audience, obviously it's still huge on mobile, makes millions of dollars. It's cool that they're like, oh, we can detach it. I still almost guarantee, Dom, we're going to get a frying pan in this game. We're going to get some little nods to the PUBG universe. I think as a joke
Okay.
from the developers, a winner chicken dinner type thing. But yeah, this game looked awesome. I'm excited for it. How do you feel? I know you love horror games. So what does this do for you in terms of your interest in it?
This was it's been mentioned before, but this was the first I've seen of it, and yeah, that trailer looked incredible. Um, I'm so stoked, and it's December. I don't know. I'm super excited. Like everything that it showed, like the mood, the horror of it, the way that the gameplay looks like it's gonna work. It just, oof, I'm really excited for this now. That's just like really quickly climbed onto most anticipated. We talked about a few weeks ago on a podcast our most anticipated games the rest of the year. That this is now up there. It might be number one, pending some other announcements that may or may not still happen. But yeah, I'm super excited for this Callisto Protocol game. Like,
You gave me an idea. I think in July, early July, we should do our new most anticipated top five without looking at our old list, and then I'll unveil our old list and we'll see how they compare after a month of announcements for games we get this year. I think that'd be pretty
It's a good
interesting.
idea.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm excited for it as well. I don't know. We just don't get enough like triple A horror games. Obviously, we're both excited for The Quarry, which is coming out next week as we're recording. But that's not necessarily a triple A game. And in Hollywood, there's always this thing with where if a movie comes out, sometimes there's a movie that's very similar that comes out around the same time. Like when Just Friends and Friends with Benefits both came out, and people get those movies confused. Uh, with movies, it's a little bit easier because movies take like a year and a half to make, right? At least live action, not necessarily animated movies. With gaming, it's a little bit harder for those things to be like syncing up randomly because games are so long to develop. But we're likely going to get Callisto Protocol and Dead Space remake within a month of each other. How crazy is that? Like,
Yeah.
it's wild how that happens. I always
Even
think it's
if,
so funny.
because obviously there's like, well, it could get delayed. They could, or just they could get delayed to be even closer, right?
Yeah.
Callisto could go from December to February or something. So
It's always funny how that stuff happens. Next up, we had a game that I thought was Sable. Turns out to be Roller Dome. I wrote down arcade skating shooter. I guess that's the only way I can describe it. Coming out August 6, 2022. Looks fun. Nothing else to say there. Anything of interest for you or no? Nope.
nah.
Next up, I wrote anime-ass anime game. This is Eternites. It's coming 2023. It's a mix of your typical anime action game and also a dating sim. The opening looked cool. It looked like a well done cinematic for an anime, and then kind of got into the gameplay that I'm not necessarily a fan of, and I'm assuming Dom too, knowing your taste, you probably won't be interested in either.
Not much going for this one either. Yeah.
Next up, Street Fighter 6. Still sporting that weird logo that they kind of stole from somebody else, but they decided, okay, we're gonna move the Street Fighter part of it outside, and we're gonna keep the shape and just put the 6 there. Very odd. It's coming 2023. Looks cool. They showed off 6 characters. They showed off Ryu, Chun-Li, Luke, who I'm not familiar with, and a couple of other characters. Not huge into Street Fighter, but because of being into gaming, you kind of get the absorption of it just through being interested in the industry. So excited for people who are excited. I'm still waiting for my fighting game announcement, which is Injustice 3. Where is it? Come on, NetherRealm. Maybe it shows up in our predictions later. Who knows? Next up, Tunic coming to PlayStation September 27th. I need to get back to that game. Season is coming in autumn 2022. This is the indie game where it's a woman of color riding her bike down this like post-apocalyptic world. Looks really cool. If you're into walking sims or games like that with that type of vibe, it seems like it's going to be that type of adventure. If you love What Remains of Edith Finch's of the World or Firewatch, definitely is giving me those vibes. I almost skipped a whole page. Hold on here. Next up, we have... Oh, no. That's it. Okay, first page, second page. The last thing, Final Fantasy 16. Now, I think people were excited to see this game, and I do love the statement that the producer made beforehand, basically saying, like, our job as game developers in a world that's kind of in turmoil right now is to deliver some entertainment that can distract people for as long as it does. Which I like him acknowledging the events of everything going on with, Ukraine, the stuff we deal with on a monthly basis at this point in the United States, and all of that stuff. But the trailer looked cool. Obviously, we're on polar opposites in terms of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I really enjoyed that game, had a blast with it. I know you were turned off a bit by it. Funny enough, I think we both have concerns with this game not having to do with maybe the setting or the characters or the story, because I think all of those hit and look really cool. The combat, and for somebody who loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think the combat looks close to it, but it looks a little bit more arcadey, and we both are like, why are all these giant numbers on screen, right?
It's because the thing was, yeah, I I complained a lot about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I did not like that combat system. But then even looking back to Kingdom Hearts 3, did not like that either. Because that was just the opposite of Final Fantasy VII, right? Where it was just super arcadey and you're just kind of button mashing into crazy combos, into special attacks. And it's all kind of automated and you're jumping into the air as you use your sword and things like it. It was just a lot of very extra. This felt like it's kind of like that Kingdom Hearts gameplay. To be honest, I don't know, but it didn't look fun to me. It doesn't get me excited, even though the setting looks super cool. I like the more fantasy, medieval style. We got a bunch of dragons, all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, it's still feeling like a tough sell for me at this point. But I know this is a big deal. A lot of people are going to be excited about this. So similar to Street Fighter, it's hard to ignore it entirely. It's kind of like a big deal. Any kind of Final Fantasy in the industry is a big deal.
And this is going to be a lot of people's first introduction to Final Fantasy in a fantasy setting, which I think is pretty big.
Good point.
That kind of has me interested. I need to see more of the combat. I'm not as worried about it because who knows the settings, you might be able to turn down the numbers. It's funny though because a lot of people would say, "Oh man, I can't wait for Final Fantasy to move from turn-based combat. I'm going to be much more interested in it." And then it moves from turn-based combat and it's like, maybe I don't want this after all, So it's pretty interesting. Next up, that's it for the State of Play. Really wonderful show. I thought it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I went in with decent expectations. I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but I thought it was overall well done. The one note I want to make is, though we knew PlayStation was partnering with Summer Game Fest, this State of Play actually had the branding on it, Dom, which I thought was very interesting. Like it had the Summer Game Fest branding in the actual video package. Okay. Which, it was like, oh, whatever. But PlayStation doesn't typically do that. They're like, yeah, we're with you, but we're not with you. It's like you can label us on your thing, but we're doing our own thing. So I thought that's pretty interesting. And it might come up later. But let's get to our summer of predictions. Let's do some predictions, baby. Following Sony's State of Play, June has kicked off the summer of announcements. And we're looking at several upcoming events that will infuse the gaming industry with hype, surprise, and updates. The way I wrote this out is I want us both to go into our predictions with the same information, Dom, and everyone out there to have updated information, so we're all working with the same set of information. How many times can I say information in a row? So, here are some updates that are hot off the presses as recent as this morning. First up, Dragon Age 4 has a title. It's going to be titled Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which is dope. If you're unfamiliar, cool Solus, who's a villainous character, he was the bald elven mage that was featured in the unveiling of Dragon Age 4. He is known as the Dreadwolf. So with him being the main villain, it seems like that's a perfect name. Super excited. I always forget, Dom, which Dragon Age games have you played?
None of them.
Wow, okay.
Inquisition for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours. Years ago.
I would not be surprised if EA releases a legendary collection like they did with the Mass Effect for Dragon Age. Would not surprise me. Love those games. Next up, the other bit of information. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's reveal is happening on June 8th. So this is a day before Summer Game Fest. So, like I said, just want everyone to have the same information so we're not talking about, oh, will Modern Warfare 2 be unveiled at this? And it's like, well, dummy, it's happening the day before. Next up, we already knew EA wasn't doing an event this year. They're not doing EA Play, but they are partnered with Summer Game Fest. The surprising one is Ubisoft came out and said they're not doing an event, and they're not partnered with Summer Game Fest. This is big because where are we going to see Ubisoft stuff? Will it appear at Xbox's presentation?
Don't say too much. You'll spoil my prediction.
Yeah. I'm not going to do any predictions, but the thing I wanted to mention is the reason this is a big deal is we don't know what's going on necessarily with the future of Assassin's Creed right now. We have the Avatar game slated for next year. We haven't heard nothing about massive entertainment Star Wars game. There's a lot of stuff Ubisoft can talk about. That's why it's so weird. But once again, like Dom said, we might be teasing some predictions later on. Now to the scheduled events. I put these into 2 categories. The could be cool category, which are events that like we're not really interested in, but they could show some cool stuff that we'll be interested in afterward, right? You're not looking forward to this event, but there might be a game or 2 that gets you hype. And then there's the big boy tier, which is self-explanatory. It's the big boys. So first up in the could be cool tier, we have Netflix's Geek Week for Gaming, which is June 10th. Who knows what will happen there? Obviously, Netflix has gotten into gaming recently. And I'm more interested to see what media properties they turn into TV and movies from gaming than whatever gaming stuff. I think that'll be the better hype part.
I have some good predictions there too.
The overlooked one from last year that I thought was one of my favorite presentations was a Tribeca Game Spotlight. They showed off some really cool games. There was 2 that were claymation games that are probably years out that looked absolutely incredible. It's the closest thing to a Wallace and Gromit video game I've ever seen.
I remember that you showed me. And then there was it the same one where the entire game was not animated but motion capture or motion stop or whatever. I forget what it's called. Like the AT-ATs in Star Wars, like they made the entire game like with miniature. I don't remember.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Like this is like, your snooty uncle's game showcase, and I'm here for it, and I can't wait. That's June 10th as well. So Geek Week and that happening back to back. June 11th, this is the one event on this list that isn't partnered with the Summer Game Fest, the Future Game Show. Now this one is weird because they can show a bunch. Usually they'll show things we've seen before 17 times, but they'll also have like one game you've never seen before. So who the hell knows? The information I did write down though is it's going to be about 40-ish games. Pretty hefty boy here. But the publishers I'm interested in are Team 17 and Thunderful. Thunderful recently has published some really cool games, indie games, and obviously Team 17 does a lot of dope stuff as well. So we'll see. Once again, could be cool, but we don't know. Next up, this is the big boy tier. So first up, I want to start off with any unannounced Nintendo Direct or State of Play or PlayStation Showcase we don't know about. Those could totally happen in June. Who knows? And for our predictions, we're only going from the beginning of June, Dom, to the end of June. So anything that happens in July doesn't count for this specific predictions thing. Obviously, if events are announced for July, we'll do another predictions thing then. But we're only going from June 2nd or June 3rd to June 30th. So who knows if we'll see a Nintendo Direct? I hope so. PlayStation Showcase. It was weird that we got that new Pokemon trailer. So maybe, to me, that means like, oh, maybe a Direct is a little bit farther away, Who knows? Obviously, they don't work directly together, but yeah, we'll see. The one thing I want to mention from that is, which is kind of a big deal for people in the know for Pokemon, Dom, is do you recognize the name Junichi Masuda?
No.
So Junichi Masuda is essentially the grandfather of Pokemon. Okay, he is the dude. When you think of Pokemon, he is the dude. He's responsible for like shiny Pokemon, breeding, like a lot of mechanics in Pokemon that make Pokemon what it is. He is like that dude. He recently left Game Freak, and now he's the chief creative dude at the Pokemon Company. That's his label, the chief creative guy. I think it's chief creative guy, but yeah, chief creative dude at the Pokemon Company, which is a pretty big promotion because he went from Game Freak to the Pokemon Company, which is a big deal. So there's that. Next up, the other thing, Toby Fox that made Undertale is doing one of the songs in a Pokemon game, which is super cool. Usually that stuff is very Eastern developed, so it's awesome to see Toby Fox jump in there and do a song. Anyways, the Summer Game Fest Showcase, Dom, this is happening on June 9th. This is Key 3, Jeff Keighley's big show. Once again, we're going to get into our predictions later, but I wanted to label out all of the partners because there's some misses here that I'm wondering what's going to happen. So their partners are 2K, Activision, Atlas, Bandai Namco, Bloober Team, Silent Hill maybe, Capcom, Coffee Stain, Deep Silver, Digital Extremes, Dotemu, which is a name you might not recognize, but they're publishing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge and Metal Slug Tactics. 2 games that people are really looking forward to, so keep that in mind. EA, Epic Games, Focus Home Entertainment, Frost Giant, Humble Games, Level Infinite, Mediatonic, who does Fall Guys and a bunch of other games, publishing. MuHoYo, which you're like, MuHoYo, who is that? They're the developers of Genshin Impact, and recently they unveiled their next game, which is Zenless Zone Hero, so that could play a part in that show as well. Netflix, Raw Fury, Sega, Skybound Games, which is interesting, Studio MDHR, PlayStation, Square Enix, WB Games, and Xbox. No Nintendo, no Ubisoft, which is pretty huge. One thing I want to mention too is with these partners, it's not just for the actual showcase, it's for the weekend. There's a lot of influencers and media people going down there to play games. So for instance, with like Studio MDHR, I don't think they're showing anything new. I think they're partnered and people are going to get hands-on of the Delicious Last Course, which is coming out at the end of the month. So
that makes sense.
Those are all the people partnering. Nothing else to say there. I just wanted to get that out there so everyone knows what's going on. Now the Xbox Bethesda Showcase. This is happening on June 12th, the following Sunday from Summer Game Fest. There's only one update I want to mention. Obsidian Entertainment has teased their inclusion in the event. One of the directors at Obsidian basically had this little, like, he put like the nail polish emoji of like getting ready, like getting ready to go out kind of thing. So Obsidian's going to be involved. Now, a lot of people think, oh, it's 100% going to be Avowed. And basically Jeff Grubb said that it's not, he's not saying it's not Avowed, but he's saying it's not only Avowed. He says that there's going to be something else Obsidian showing. Now, if you remember, Dom, do you remember Pentiment? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Pentiment is the Disco Elysium-inspired game by former Fallout New Vegas director, And Jez Corden, in the initial report of this, said that it could launch in 2022. With Redfall being delayed, with Starfield being delayed, I could totally see this being there. I don't think it'll be the showcase of the show because obviously it's like a computer RPG type game. Doesn't speak to everyone. But to me, that's kind of what the tease is. Probably we're seeing Pentiment, right? Everything kind of lines up for that, I'd assume. Nothing to add? Okay.
I don't want to. I got a lot to say about Obsidian. We'll get to.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's get to our predictions. And now that all the cards are on the table, we have all of the information out there. I told Dom he needed to come with 10 total predictions, and they were split up as follows. He needed 2 indie game predictions. This isn't based on whatever show they appear at, literally that they're an indie game. Obviously, a lot of games toe the line, but, we know indie game is an indie game. 2 release date predictions. Once again, this could happen at any event at any time. This is specifically for release dates. And also, your other predictions could be release date ones too, but these 2 specifically had to be release dates. You need to come with 3 Summer Game Fest predictions for the actual showcase, not the idea of it for over the entire summer. And then 3 Xbox Bethesda Showcase predictions. So we're going to start off. We'll go back and forth. We're going to start off with the indie predictions. Do you want to go first or should I go first?
You go first.
Okay. So this is a little bit of a smorgasbord. By the end of June, because remember, all these predictions are only valid through June 30th. There's only 30 days in June, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's only 30 days. By the end of June, we'll have the release dates for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, and Somerville. All 3 of those games will have release dates. And if you're like, oh, well, what if they just slap a 2023 on it? No, by this I mean 2022 release dates with at least a month. So at least September 2022, or you know what I mean? Now, it can't just be a vague 2023. That's my first indie one. What's yours?
Okay. I'm going to go with we're going to be revealed to a Star Wars game developed by an indie studio that I'll say that we've heard of, that we're very familiar with. So not like some random mobile developer, but someone who has a track record of making indie games, basically. Like I think a good example.
Play Dead, Team Cherry.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going for. So like a licensed Star Wars game, but made by an indie studio. We talked about this idea. I think you talked about it really a while ago, but for a Marvel game or Marvel games, right? Like, can we pass out some IP to some different indies and see what kind of creative ideas they can do with that? With Marvel's IPs, I think we're gonna see that happen with the Star Wars game. So, putting that out.
Yeah, I hope, man. Here's hoping, because when you started that with Star Wars, I'm like, did Dom remember that this is the indie predictions? But yeah. Next up, my second one. We don't see Hollow Knight Silksong at all. It remains dormant.
It's a good thing I brought a third because that was on my list.
Okay. Yeah, we don't see it at all. We don't get even a sniff of Hollow Knight Silksong. That's my second prediction. Hurts. But here's the thing. I'm either right or I'm happy. So that's what I'm going with. I'm either right and it doesn't show up, or I'm happy and we see it. So can't go wrong with that.
All right. Yeah, it's weird that we both are pessimistic for that one. But anyway, next I have, along the same lines, where because obviously Breath of the Wild 2 was delayed into 2023, and the popular prediction, it seems, is, oh, well, we're going to get, some remasters of Twilight Princess and or Wind Waker on the Switch, because we got, the Skyward Sword remake last year. But I'm not going with that. I'm going with, we're going to see another Zelda game, but again, made by a non-Nintendo indie studio. So very similar to what we saw with Cadence of Hyrule, where the developers who, I don't remember their name, but they made Crypt of the Necro Dancer.
Yeah, that's right.
They made a Zelda-inspired version of their game where it's, rhythm-based, but still kind of a 2D Zelda game. It was mad fun, and I think it seemed like a lot of people enjoyed it. So I think Nintendo is going to do that again. Different studio than them, but an indie studio nonetheless. They're gonna give Zelda to and see what else they can make. 'Cause I feel like people are clamoring for Breath of the Wild, and the delays aren't a great look, and so I think they've had this in their back pocket too. So that's what I'm going with, an indie Zelda game, non-Nintendo.
I see your trend of pair indie studios with popular IP. That's kind of both of your predictions are based on that.
Yeah, I'm going with that a lot here apparently.
Next up, release date predictions. I think it's only fair. I went first on the first one. You can go first on this one.
All right. I'm going to go. I want to take one because I think you'll take it. So I'm going to take it first because I only have 2 dates. Elden Ring is going to have DLC releasing this October the 28th.
Oh, okay. You're going specific. All right. I thought you were just
very specific.
I thought you were going to say, because honestly, even when it took Elden Ring gets a DLC this year, because I even think that's bold. I don't know if that's necessarily a given that it releases in this calendar year.
It's soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you get it right even if it's just October. I'm not going to hold you to 28th, but that'll be bonus points if you get it specifically. That'd be pretty crazy. My first one, The Last of Us remake gets revealed and dated for November of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought about that, but instead I went with something a little riskier.
Okay.
And I'll elaborate though. We're going to get a release date of November 4th. I'm specific here again. For God of War Ragnarok. November 4th. It's a Friday.
So we both agree that PlayStation's big exclusive is going to be in November, at least.
We're on a similar page.
Yeah.
Now, do I actually think that come November 4th, it won't have been delayed out of that date? No. But I do think they're going to announce that as the date, and maybe it ends up getting delayed into January or something. But I think they commit to November 4th at the summer. Because probably not going to be another State of Play in June because we just had one. So I'm really banking on them wanting to make a huge splash at Summer Game Fest presentation with that announcement. So that's what I'm going with. God of War Ragnarok November 4th.
So mine is in the realm of delays, but it's actually about the delays. So I'm putting 2 games together. I think that both Saints Row and Gotham Knights are delayed out of 2022. They both don't look all that hot. They both have received pretty mixed criticism with their latest reveals and previews. I think I'm more confident in Saints Row getting delayed out of this year than I am Gotham Knights, but I would not be I'm like a 50-50 with Gotham Knights, or I'm like a 70-30 with Saints Row, They're both pretty much there, and I wouldn't be surprised for either. Next up, Summer Game Fest. These are the predictions. It's weird. Why would a company just come out and announce the title for their next game in a popular franchise a week before events are being held, if not to show more? So I think we get a Dragon Age Dreadwolf story cinematic. More than what we've seen, because we've basically just been seeing teases of the world and Solus. I think this is establishes what's going on in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I don't think we'll see gameplay, and if we do, it'll be so cinematic that you question if it's gameplay type of feel. If anything, it's the closest to gameplay we'll get is Hellblade 2's recent gameplay reveal, where it is gameplay, but it's super cinematic feeling, right? But yeah, Dragon Age Dreadwolf is in Summer Game Fest, and we get a story cinematic. That's my first one.
So, here I wrote down I have 7, just
in case.
Be extra redundant. Yeah. So now unfortunately I have choices. So I already kind of used God of War for a release date prediction, so I'm gonna push that one aside. But I'm gonna go big. We're gonna see a teaser for the next BioShock game at Summer Game Fest. I'm second guessing. 2K was one of the partners, right?
2K is publishing it. It's being developed by Cloud Chamber Games.
And they were listed.
Oh,
as
you're saying are they
partners
partnered
for
with Summer Game Fest? Yes, they're the first one listed.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were saying are they partnering with BioShock? I'm like, damn, they own BioShock. You know that.
Yeah.
So I was super confused.
No gameplay, but just a teaser type trailer to give us an idea of the setting, because that's kind of what people always want to know with BioShock. Is ever since they brought it into the sky, the last one, it's kind of well, are we going to be underwater? Are we going to be somewhere different? What's going on? So it's going to kind of give us, similar to what you just said for Dragon Age, it give us an idea of what the world is and what's going on. No gameplay or anything like that. No date. Just, yep, BioShock because we know it's getting made. We know it's had some trouble with development, even though it's been worked on for like a couple years now. But I think they're getting to the point where they got to put something out, to get some hype built and be reminded that people are going to be excited as all fuck for this, even if it's early on.
So one of my three I'm gonna have to actually make up on the spot because I only came with three because I was like, "There's no way Dom's gonna have a Bioshock prediction."
For real? Oh man.
My Bioshock I have written down Bioshock 4 revealed, and I added female protagonist, which I think will be pretty interesting. But I think that's not different enough, so I want to come up with something else. That'll be my third one. It's gonna be on the spot. I'm gonna look at the partners, figure something out. But my second prediction, Monster Hunter World 2 is revealed, dated for early 2023. We had a similar time frame for the first Monster Hunter World game. Obviously came out early of the year it came out. That game sold phenomenally. Capcom just loves Monster Hunter. We're getting towards the end of the Monster Hunter Rise DLC time frame with Sunbreak and all that stuff. And you may be thinking, oh well, Resident Evil 4 remake is dated for March or whatever. It's like, who cares? Like that has nothing to do with. I'm pretty sure the year Monster Hunter World came out, one of the RE remakes came out. Capcom isn't worried about that. If anything, they want both those games to come out so their end of their fiscal year looks phenomenal. So, and it's been a while. What year did Monster Hunter World come out? I want to say 2019 or 2018.
I was thinking 18.
Monster Hunter World. I'm looking it up on the spot. Let's see here. Yeah, January 26, 2018. So I'm going to say January 2023 is what it gets dated. I'm not going to go super specific. For bonus points, I'll add a specific date. Let me just look at January real quick. I'm going to say January 26th, 2023. Monster Hunter World 2 release date. That's my second prediction. What's your second as I try to come up with a third?
All right. I wanted this as part of a Nintendo Direct, but I think it just as easily could be at Summer Game Fest. I'm going to say Rogue Legacy 2, and I could get burned on this quickly if I find out there's some kind of exclusivity deal, but Rogue Legacy 2 gets a cool little trailer and is announced for Switch and PS4 and 5 at Summer Game Fest, because right now it's only on Xbox, I found out. So.
Wait, are you sure? It's not on PlayStation?
It is not. It's on Xbox and PC only. I know, right?
But the first one is PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, that's why I didn't realize it, because I was going to buy it. And then I was like, I can't. Not here, at least.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
That surprises me. I thought it was on PlayStation this entire time. I was more surprised it was on Xbox. I was like, oh, cool.
I just feel like the first game was super loved, and this is a direct sequel. So I think like it was always part of their plan to have, the ports for the other platforms ready to go. And, Xbox, pitched in a couple bucks to buy, a month or a couple of months of exclusivity or something. But it seems like this type of game always comes to Switch.
It would have been a perfect Game Pass game. That's why I'm so shocked that it's only on Xbox, because it didn't launch in Game Pass. That's what I'm most shocked about. I'm like, that's crazy to me. Wow. I'm so flabbergasted. I didn't know that was a thing. That's super surprising.
It's a good get, but no one knows it.
So port to Switch and PlayStation platforms, right? Is you're going?
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, it's on PC, right? I'm assuming.
It is.
Do you think Steam Deck would be featured in that advertisement? Not that this is a prediction, but do you think they'd say Steam Deck, or do you think it's too niche of a product that it doesn't really matter?
I think at most they'd put it, at the bottom of the screen at the end where they put all the platforms. Maybe they'll put a Steam Deck logo. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. I'm trying to think of. I need some more time to think of my third one, so you can go back to back and give me your third.
All right, we're going big, because it's just more fun. I obviously don't think all. Basically, the one I had about BioShock seems like it could happen, but it's a big deal. For that to happen and my next prediction to happen seems just way unlikely, but going big anyway. Persona 6 is getting revealed at Summer Game Fest at that presentation. And, it'll be PS5 and PS4 will be shown. I'll include that as part of it. because Persona 5 infamously still came out on PS3, years into the PS4's life. So I think it'll be a similar situation. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. It'll be all, I don't know, blue or purple or something instead of red. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna go with. I feel like that's a big announcement, and that'd be really cool. A lot of people are gonna get all hyped because 5 got in a lot of new people like myself into the franchise. So Persona 6, book it. Have I
like
talked
that
for
too.
long enough to give you an idea?
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, I have an idea. It's very bold.
Okay.
I like it. So I was looking through the partners, and I was like, who do I think could have something to announce? I already had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge in one of my other predictions for indie games. I can't really tackle .emu. I was like, does 2K have something? You stole BioShock, so I'm like, oh, what do I? There's Capcom. I'm looking through, and there's one that stuck out to me for 2K that no one's talking about that was slated to come out this summer. Still no release date. We're going to see Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is the tactical RPG from the developers of XCOM. It's the XCOM Marvel game. It's going to come out in August. It's going to have an August 2022 release date. And to make it a little bit spicier, I'm going to say that it's going to be announced that each platform gets... So PlayStation and Xbox each get an exclusive character. I think PlayStation's is Spider-Man. I think that's pretty easy to nail down. And I think that Xbox's is who would make sense for... I say Xbox's is going to be because of the recent movie and she fits in with the tone of the game. I'm going to go America Chavez, who some people might not know, but she's one of the main characters in the new Doctor Strange movie.
Okay.
She basically can travel through the multiverse. She has a dope American jacket, super cool. And obviously I'm always down for some Latino representation. So I'm going to go with that. A lot of layers to that, but hey, you stole BioShock from me. I had to come up with something on the spot. And I'm excited for this game. I want to see more gameplay, and I want to see more outfits. Obviously they showed off those gold and black ones, which look cool. But am I going to be getting some classic Captain America outfits? Am I going to get some dope Blade outfits? Give me that OG Wolverine. I want to see some costumes. Give me a reason to hop in. And I hope it's August. I hope this game doesn't get delayed to next year. I think August would be a nice time frame for it. And it'd be soon enough for people oh, I'm excited. Start up the hype cycle. Let's get into it. Now, the Xbox Bethesda Showcase predictions. I went first on Summer Game Fest. So you can go first on this one. I'm pretty confident you're not going to steal my first one. Pretty confident.
Okay. I have two. Well, I have some extras just in case, but I'll go with what I think I feel really good about, and that's we're gonna see a trailer for the new Fable game. I think a lot of people are kind of counting on this, but I'm gonna throw in there. It's gonna because obviously we saw just a teaser trailer. I think 2 years ago now.
The fairy that gets swatted or stepped on or something.
Yeah, which was not much going on, just kind of a bit of a fantasy world, but it's dark and humorous or whatever. But this, I think we're gonna see a trailer with actual gameplay in it. It'll look gameplay without the HUD or whatever mixed into cinematics, that kind of stuff. No date, no year, nothing like that. Just a nice trailer, just to remind everyone, yeah, we're making this Fable game, and it's gonna be cool as hell, and we can't wait to release it, and I can't wait to play it. So that's my first prediction.
If that happens, I predict I'm gonna have a oh shit moment where I'm like, oh shit, this game looks good. I have all the trust in the world in Playground Games. Obviously there's a little bit of worry about are they gonna nail the overall gameplay of an RPG, but in terms of the quality of that game visually, I think with their work on Forza Horizon stuff, that's almost a given. So I think that game is gonna look beautiful. Now, will it play beautiful and will everything come together? Who knows? But I can almost guarantee that game's gonna look gorgeous, and if it does show, I can't wait. My first prediction, Double Fine is going to announce their next game, their next major game, and it's going to be an original IP. So it's not going to be Psychonauts 3. It's not going to be, a sequel to one of their known properties. I was originally, I want to add this anecdote, going to attach, they're also going to announce a remake of the original Psychonauts. because of the success of Psychonauts 2, they're going to build Psychonauts in the original Psychonauts in the Psychonauts 2 engine. But I'm less confident in that because when doing my research, I found an interview with Tim Schafer where they were asking him about that. And he basically said that going back and fixing that game in any capacity is an impossible task because of the way that game was developed. Kind of talks about how it was, when indie developers are making games, they can do some weird workarounds that maybe make the game's longevity in terms of working on it a little difficult. And obviously I said remake, not remaster, but the problem there is that sounds like Tim Schafer doesn't want to remaster or remake that game. Therefore, you would assume that then it would get outsourced to a different studio to do it. And I don't think Xbox is going to step on Double Fine's toes like that and be like, oh, we're going to send this out to somebody else to remake. Not only that, I think they'd probably ask them. I don't think Tim Schafer is the type of dude who's like, yeah, just outsource one of the games I made to get remade by another team. You know what I mean? I just don't see that happening. Double Fine isn't that type of company. They're either going to do it themselves or no one's going to do it. So I kind of backed off of that. But I do think we see their next game, and it's an original IP. And an added on, I'm going to be stoked.
I like that because it's hard to do. It's hard to do those predictions a lot of the time because you can't predict like what we don't know. If it's an original IP, how do we describe what it is? It's like, where do you get the other details? So yeah, that's pretty cool, and it feels about right because I feel like they're especially like Psychonauts 2 was a Game of the Year contender. It was our Game of the Year.
Yep.
Right. But even at the Game Awards last year, it was up there. So I think they're on the up and up, and I think that Microsoft is gonna want to see more from them and encourage them to, start to advertise their next project. That's what I like the original IP about it. I'm excited for this potential now.
And yeah, Tim Schafer basically said his next game's gonna be original. So,
okay,
that's kind of where I get the idea from. But who knows? They have a bunch of people working there that have their own ideas too. So we'll see.
All right, I'm gonna go big, and I'm gonna set a scene for you. Phil. Well, this isn't part of the prediction, but picture Phil, talking about how much he loves all his new studios, and they're all doing great, and a lot of them are growing, and one of them that has been growing a lot is Obsidian, so much so that they're now able to reveal another project they're working on. It's not Pentiment. I mean, they are working on that, but it is a sequel to Fallout New Vegas, and it's a different city. An American. Actually, I'm not going to say American. It's a different city, but it's going to be explained that this is, it's going to be clear that it's a sequel to New Vegas and not Fallout 5, right? And yeah, developed by Obsidian, and we're all going to be sitting here scratching our heads like, how is that even a thing? How many people work at that place? How many teams do they have? And we're just going to be sitting here in bewilderment because I feel like the past couple years, there's always at least one of those moments where something we couldn't have predicted just based on like studio capacity or whatever it is and resources, like we just think it feels impossible, but yet Xbox seems to make it happen. Like there's something that we didn't think was possible, apparently is. So that's why I'm going with this. It's obviously a big dream prediction for me, and I want to will it into existence, but that's what I'm going with. Obsidian is making that New Vegas sequel, and I can't. We're just gonna get a teaser trailer, kind of like that original Fable one, where it's just tone piece and explains that this is a sequel to New Vegas and not Fallout 5, and get hyped, people.
So I have a couple of follow-ups to you on this. One, with Pentiment probably coming out this year, the cool thing is that he was the director of the first one. So if they're pushing that game out this year, he can totally start pre-pro on the sequel. And I think that would get a lot of good sentiment with people if they announce that he's directing the sequel as well, which would be dope. Where like they announce Pentiment, or they announce the sequel and they're like, Josh Sawyer's directing it. He directed the first one. Oh, by the way, he has a game coming out this year as well. I think it would be sick. Second thing, none of the Fallouts have ever been outside of the United States, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so do we think that would ever happen?
I'm not sure about like 1 and 2, like the CRPG.
No, they were in California.
So. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like California, Nevada. So it'd be interesting. Like, I would love a Fallout in like Paris. I would love a Fallout like in London. I would love a Fallout in Tokyo. there's a lot of places I would love a Fallout like in India. I think would be really interesting. Like
Ooh.
in terms of American cities, the only one they haven't really touched in terms of a major one is like what, LA or Chicago? 'Cause I'm thinking Vegas, obviously. Honestly, actually that's less interesting. The more interesting question is, would you want a direct sequel where it takes place in the same in New Vegas? 'Cause I'm kind of
Yeah.
into that.
I thought about that too, and I didn't hate it. I want to see something, more different, right? And I would like to, give me Paris or London or Tokyo or something. That'd be cool, right? That I think like has the most potential. But I think that's harder because something about Fallout is American. I don't know. This is gonna sound weird. I don't know, nationalistic or something. But something like
No, it's like
Fallout,
Americana, like the Nuka-Cola. It's very much like
yeah,
the 50s vibe. Yeah, I get
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And like the 50, I mean, obviously the 50s happen in everywhere else in the world too, in other countries. But
Yeah, I get it. It feels
yeah,
uniquely American in that way because a lot of the imagery. I
yeah,
get it. But maybe that is the shift of where the main lines are that, and maybe the side ones are the exploring the world type vibe. For me,
Mhm.
my dream city for a Fallout would be Seattle because I think the needle would look really cool in like
yeah,
the post apocalypse, and I just love the Pacific Northwest so much. And even with New Vegas, maybe instead, because it's New Vegas to Nevada, right? I think in New Vegas I mean, you dip into California a bit, right? In New Vegas, I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me, or at least the dam or
No,
something.
I mean, there's the Hoover Dam, um, and there's the NCR, which is like the New California Republic, which I think the map is different.
Maybe it could dip into like Arizona or maybe into Colorado. That could change it up where you're like in the same
Yeah,
centralized area. You do dip into Vegas, but maybe go different direction. Who knows? We'll see. God, I hope we see it in. Yeah, Obsidian is Xbox's Insomniac Games. I can
right.
compare those two perfectly because they're so identical in what they're able to do. My second one, at least 2 remakes or remasters are revealed. Okay. So that's kind of vague, but I added a second part to this. And it is, 2 years ago, Dom, Big Philly Style came out and like, we know gamers love Kingdom Hearts. We're bringing Kingdom Hearts to Xbox. Last year, I may be getting these years mixed up. Another year, man, everyone loves those Yakuza games. We're bringing the Yakuza series over to Xbox. There is one Japanese franchise Xbox gamers have been clamoring for. Recently, Nintendo gamers have been clamoring for too, and that's Persona. And I think Persona 5 gets revealed, or at least some Persona game in the franchise comes to Xbox. May not be Persona 5, but I was going to be more vague and be like Atlas partners with Xbox, but I'm going to go more specific and say Persona comes to Xbox and also the 2 remakes remasters, kind of bundling those in. I think the remake remaster is so vague and kind of cheap that, especially if that Gears of War thing is true, like that's one, in the bucket. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my second one.
I like that too. Now I have a tough choice. And you know what? I'm gonna go.
Give me a vague idea of what they are? Like maybe the game or the idea. So I know which one would be best vibe with my last one, so we're not stepping on each other's toes.
One, I actually have 3, but one I think is lame. I don't care about.
Okay.
One is another sequel to a
That's all I need to
Bethesda
know. That's all I need to know.
franchise.
That's
Okay.
because I want to get it revealed when you say it. What's the other one?
The other is a new game of from a partner publishing studio. I'm gonna go with that. I'm just gonna say it. At Xbox's conference, we're gonna see the Ubisoft Star Wars game. I think it was Massive who was making it.
The Bounty Hunter game.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna say it's. You know what? I'm not gonna say it's a Mandalorian game. Specifically, but it will be a non-Jedi Star Wars RPG made by obviously Ubisoft, and we're gonna see it at Xbox their showcase. Like a good
If you get to
trailer
create your character and Wookiee is not an option, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm not gonna be able to live out my Black Chrysanthemum
Oh,
fantasy.
how cool would that be to create a Wookiee? Ooh.
Yeah, there's just so many like. Let me make an alien. We've talked about this 100 times. Let me make an alien in a Star Wars game already. God damn it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where that indie game you talked about. Maybe that's the game where we get to play as an alien finally. Who knows? Um, I do think a Ubisoft game does appear. This is my prediction. I do think a Ubisoft game does appear at Xbox. It's just like, is it Avatar? Is it Star Wars? What is it? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
What was your other one? It's not an official prediction, but I want to hear the sequel one. What was that?
Wolfenstein 3.
That's a good call. I was thinking about that too. It's just like, do they show that first? Do they show the Indiana Jones game? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My last one. This is a one where I'm combining a bunch of stuff again, but it's over the same thing. So, gameplay is going to be shown for the following games, and when I say gameplay, me and you will very clearly be able to say that's gameplay, right? We're going to be the judges of that. So, Avowed, Redfall, Starfield. I think those are all kind of gimmies, but I wanted to add 2 more onto that: Hellblade 2 and Forza, the new Forza game.
Dang.
I don't know if it's that outlandish. I do think like at least 4 of those probably, maybe 3. My one worry is I don't know if we see both Redfall and Starfield. That's the one where I'm worried.
Yeah, to me, I thought about Redfall, but I think that kind of falls off the radar for a hot minute.
Yeah.
They got enough other stuff to show, and I feel like that just goes dark. Comes back around in the fall or something, or at a different show with a big blowout. But I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of just is excluded from this entirely. So while this is actually tough for you, like we should see gameplay for all these theoretically, but that's a lot of games to say gameplay specifically from. So
See, I think Forza is a given.
Mm-hmm. Starfield's a given.
And Hellblade's a given. I think those 3 are given. Those 3. The Redfall and Avowed are the ones I'm a little iffy on.
Yeah. Avowed.
Yeah. I also was going to do one around Plague Tale Requiem. I was looking into it. I was going to say that that's going to have a featured gameplay demo, right? Like it's going to be an extended gameplay demo, and then it's going to be announced for Xbox Game Pass. Turns out it's already announced for Xbox Game Pass. Did not know that. So that's dope.
There you go.
I need to get around to the first one, a Plague Tale. What's the first one called? Plague Tale
Innocence? No.
That sounds right. I was gonna say perjury. I don't think it's perjury. It's not it's a word like that. Yeah, so those are our predictions. Interested to see what happens. I'm excited. It's one of those things, Don, we talked about where it's a bummer that we don't have E3 like as an actual thing. It's a bummer that we don't have like a Nintendo event announced or a PlayStation event after today's State of Play. Hopefully they happen in June, but it is what it is. The thing I'm excited about that you brought up is that most anticipated. I want to see how different our lists are in July, at the beginning of July, based on everything that happens here. And the funny thing is that list might not change because more games are announced that are coming out this year. It might change because some of the games we thought were coming out this year are getting delayed.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're running a little long, so we don't have a whole lot of time to talk about what we've been playing. So I'm going to be extra super brief. I've been playing a lot of MLB The Show. Surprising to me. Baseball's probably like my 3rd favorite sport, but I'm loving that game. It's so good. It's the best sports simulation on the market. It blows NBA 2K and Madden out of the water. It's not even close. And I beat Elden Ring. Hooray!
Right.
So here's the plan moving forward. I haven't even told you this, Dom. I think next week, because we're going to be in that in-between time before all of the shows get kicked off, because I don't want to talk about all of the shows until the week after the Xbox thing happens. I think next week we might end up doing the Elden Ring spoiler cast as the actual show, which I think would be cool. So I want to write that out and get that outlined so we have that. Because we both finished it. I still have some bosses I want to go back and beat. I don't know if I'm going to go through and worry about getting the endings, because spoiler alert for me, I think this was probably my least favorite final boss of a From Software game, and I can't wait to get into it on the spoiler cast, but I did not like the final boss in this game.
Really?
The second of the final boss. I think the first phase of it I really enjoy in the Black Room.
Okay.
I think the second phase is a bit of a bummer and a letdown, and I wasn't a fan of it. Kind of like a deflating a balloon, kind of. But we'll get into it in the spoiler cast.
The big Pokemon?
Yeah, the Dragon Tail character, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it for.
Too,
I've been dabbling with Rogue Legacy 2 as well. And then there was another game I wanted to mention. Oh, I started up Floppy Nights because I heard that was really good. It's an indie game that came to Game Pass. It's turn-based, but you use cards to spawn characters. So it's like a card builder, or like a deck builder plus a turn-based combat. And you're this young girl who's into Mensa, math engineering, all that stuff. And you basically are creating these like robots and characters and stuff to do yard work, turn money and stuff. It's really cute. It's a blast. I'm having fun with it. So shout out to Game Pass.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to talk more about Elden Ring when we get to it next week. But, shoot. Oh, of course. So I finally gotten into Horizon Forbidden West. Very minimal so far, just a couple hours. Really awkward, kind of bummer of an intro for some reason. It just...
Like bummer emotionally or bummer in terms of your enjoyment?
Just in terms of my enjoyment, I was just kind of
okay.
like... It's very much like a direct sequel to the first game. Like, it takes off right after, and it just feels a bit, like, awkward. I don't know. It's not a great opening. Whereas the first game, it does like a typical thing. You start out as a kid, and then like you learn some stuff, and like and it makes sense. It's a longer opening, but it kind of feels right. Well, this kind of felt like awkward as far as like, okay, we're this is still here, and we're still doing this. A cool twist gets revealed and stuff that sets up the whole premise of the second game, but I don't know, something about it just like wasn't super exciting and doesn't pull you in. That being said, probably the best looking game that's existed ever, so that pulls you in. So I'll have more to say about it, in coming weeks, but I'm super excited to get into that a bit more, even though I like started out kind of like all right, I guess. But also I did want to mention I started just today messing around with Diablo Immortal, the mobile game. Kind of cool. Kind of really cool. Don't know how long that's going to last. I have a feeling it's free to play, and I might bounce out of that really quick as soon as they start to ask me to buy some loot boxes or something. But the gameplay, the way it works in the controls, just on a touchscreen phone, works really well. I think that type of game really lends itself to those kind of controls, and even that kind of on the go platform. And they found a way to make the controls actually work really seamlessly, and it's kind of interesting. I'm gonna see where it goes, so I'm gonna keep messing around with that too.
I'm saving real quick. I'm saving my Diablo interest for 4. I'm waiting for when that comes out. This game looks good. It's reviewing pretty well. People are enjoying it, but I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for 4. So.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's on my phone, and I'm just messing around with it, kind of.
Yeah.
No investment hardly at all, so it's that sort of deal. We'll see where we go with it. But that's been it. Been a light week.
I interrupted you at the end. There wasn't anything else you wanted to add? I thought you were going to say something else.
No, that's it. It's been mostly just been watching. I've been really wrapped into Obi-Wan, and I've actually been watching Moon Knight too. But I gotta get back to it. I'm only like still 3 episodes in.
It's crazy right now because we had Obi-Wan come out, which I'm only 1 episode in. I'm trying to catch up on 2 and 3. Stranger Things came out, and then The Boys comes out tomorrow. The new season of The Boys.
Oh,
so it's crazy. And then I think in a couple of days, Miss Marvel also starts. So it's a lot of stuff going on. The one thing I wanted to say real quick, I want to get our official stance on this argument. Batch release or weekly release is better. In my opinion, weekly release is better. And I'll give my explanation. In the age of the internet and internet culture, binge releasing is terrible for everyone who doesn't have a bunch of free time, because everyone starts talking about all the episodes and you don't have a chance to catch up, and you can be like, well, you can avoid spoilers in that, which sure, but 2, I think for the longevity of something, I think it also hurts whatever is released because it's a flash in the pan and you don't have that week-to-week conversation where you're talking to your friends about what's going on, what's going to happen. That it makes it even harder because one of your friends could have binged the entire 7 episodes. One of them could be 4 episodes in. You're only 1 episode in, and it makes those discussions tougher. Whereas with a weekly release, everyone's on the same page for the most part. Obviously, there's some people lagging behind, but most people are on the same page, and it feels like a more complete conversation. I'm 100% behind weekly releases. I'm not a binge drop person.
and that gets amplified when you're in a situation like you just mentioned where Stranger Things all comes out, and then The Boys a whole season comes out, and then we got Disney Plus shows dropping, 1 or 2 episodes a week. So like once things all converge, it makes it even harder to stay up to date. I do think, like, if you're telling me it's one specific show and I have the ability to watch it all at once, then I'm going to say I want to binge it all at once every single time, right? If it's something I really enjoy. I hate waiting every week, right? Granted, that also helps build the suspense and get you excited for it. So it kind of is a catch-22. But from the streaming companies' perspectives, I imagine like week to week has got to be like smarter because like keeps it going and keeps people subscribed for longer, right? That's where you can really easily see the Disney strategy of like they're plotting out their shows and spreading them out throughout the year to try to keep someone subscribed.
One leads into the other,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very strategic. That seems intentional. I think there's a good middle ground to be drawn, and HBO has been doing it a lot where they'll drop a show the first 3 episodes all at once, and then 2 more episodes the following week, and then 2 more episodes, and then it's done. I think it was like they've been doing that with a lot of their like limited series, and I think they did something similar with the flight attendant show that we just watched. I kind of like that format because it gives you the satisfaction of a couple episodes at a time. Because sometimes those cliffhangers just like really fucking grind at you. Yeah, I think I like the middle ground as something to be thought about too in that.
Yeah, I'm a little biased because I don't like binge watching stuff in general. Like I can't watch I can't watch like 2 or 3 episodes of something in a row. I'm just weird like that. I know that's a personal thing. And also the difference too, I think, between having a significant other and not changes your habits as well. Because I think if you have a significant other, you tend to be more in favor of binge watching because you want to experience something together the times you are together. You know what I mean? As opposed to if you don't have a significant other, it's like, I'm just going to watch whatever the hell, whenever I want to. You know what I mean? That's a little bit different. But yeah, I'm in favor of weekly releases over binge. If it's that just the clear this versus that, because it's tough, man. It's tough. That's it for this week's show. Thank you guys for listening. If you can, please head on over to YouTube, search Controlled Interest, will pop right up. Subscribe so you never miss the podcast. Like so you never yes, you can dislike it if you want. So you never dislike it. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you're most excited for, possibly being revealed at Summer Game Fest. On Twitter, you can find us collectively at CTRLINT. It's Controlled Interest abbreviated. You can follow Dom at OBDomKenobi, but the O in Obi is the number 0, not the letter O. I'm at Jerrad Wyche, JERRADWYCHE. And over on Spotify, you can listen to us there or any other podcast service you enjoyed listening to us. Leave us a review if you listen on Spotify. Definitely helps us move up in the algorithm. Other than that, we'll catch you guys next week with possibly the Elden Ring spoiler cast or something else. Maybe news, maybe something else. We'll see. Catch you guys then. Bye.